Hello and welcome back to the Global Flow series. I am so excited to introduce to you guys one of my biz besties, Lexi D'Angelo. Welcome!
Woohoo! I'm so excited to be here.
Yay! Thank you so much for being here. Lexi and I have been friends for, it's only 2 years, but it actually feels...
That's absurd.
right? But in that time, we've hung out all over the world. You've been here in Australia. I've been over in the States. We had fun in New York not that long ago. And in Miami last year. And yeah, so I love you and I know everybody else is going to. So, but just because you're one of my business besties, it might not be quite enough for anyone to continue watching, but it will be fun, I promise. But so today the sort of title we're talking about is Practicing Biz Woo, a new age craft that alchemizes strategy and spirituality into a unique magic, which I love.
Yay.
But I'm going to read your official bio because it's
Perfect.
So Lexi is the founder and head sorceress of Biz Woo School of Strategy and Spirituality. Biz Woo School is a collaborative school and sisterhood for female entrepreneurs to come together in community over competition to clarify and deepen their unique craft. She strongly believes that when strategy and spirituality are blended together, potent magic takes place. Woo! I love it. And I'm one of your teachers in the Biz Woo School, and I'm just so glad to be part of it and to, let everybody meet you. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I'm so proud of you for doing this. I mean, it's such a huge vision and it's such an incredible thing you've been working on and achieving behind the scenes, and it's so different from anything else that's out there. So I just love it, and I'm just in awe of what you've created because it's absolutely beautiful. So
You're so thank you.
But yeah, so can you tell us a little bit more about yourself in your own words? How the heck have you managed to become a head sorceress and found a school of strategy and spirituality, which I just love?
Yes. So it's been a long and winding road. We were actually just talking before the recording about how we all started out in this sort of similar space, and we're all really just carving our own unique paths. And it's just really cool to see where we're all going. And so, like you, started off with being a health coach and doing that kind of thing. Didn't really work out. But yeah, I guess recently I've just, in the past year or two, I've really just found such a calling towards the more spiritual side of things. I was so in the masculine side of my business. Like, I think we both have this in common, that we're such high achievers, even like competitive, and you give us a goal, we're going to go out there and we're going to go and hit it. And I was operating from that place for a really long time, and I saw a lot of success really quickly, but it didn't fulfill me in the way that I thought it would. It was actually like the time that I felt the worst is when I hit six figures, and it was like this unicorn goal of mine. Like, once I hit six figures, my life is going to be made and gonna be chilling on the beach with a mojito and like whatever. That was not the case. I was like in and out of the ER. I had morphine like hooked up to me. My bank account was plummeting, and I hit complete burnout. So something had to change. And this actually goes into, I think, everything we're really going to be talking about today. Is just like, well, I won't get into the question you're going to ask me. Whoops, I got ahead of myself.
I mean, as long as we get it answered, it doesn't matter when we do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, so this is all about flow, and you were asking us, like, what does flow mean to you? And I don't think that there's necessarily, at least for me, any type of formula for flow, but I think that it's very cyclical, and I see things in cycles. I think everything that happens happens in cycles, and so for me, when I hit this huge period of burnout and breakdown, it felt like death, right? But death is never final. And there's like that rising from the ashes, like the phoenix, and this rebirth that happens, and you repeat the cycle over again. So for me, I was in this phase that has to happen inside of flow, where like you break down, or you don't have to break down, but it's sort of like the darkness, new moon energy, where you kind of can't see the light. And then, you know, things start to change and shift. And it was only when I stayed in that dark place for a little while, took time to really reflect inwards and feel into what was true for me, I found spirituality, and then found this excitement and this passion so I could like start to rebuild things. And then, yeah, the cycle just kind of went on from there. But from that place, it's been this period of these cycles over and over again. It's never the same. It's always a little bit different. That's why I don't think there's like a set formula per se. But I found for myself that it's been the balancing between the masculine and the feminine and diving into my internal world and then bringing it externally. That's been like this interesting flow that I've been experiencing the past year and a half or so.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love this. And it's funny, in all of the interviews I've done so far with people, we really haven't talked much about the cycles. We've talked about it being an ebb or flow, a dark or light, but really not so cyclical. And I think it's such an important factor, especially when you're in that place and it feels like death. Like you were so sick. I was like, what is wrong with you? And we were all really worried. Like, you know, like, holy crap, did you hear Lexi was in hospital again? We're like, what is going on? And it wasn't even like, so this is an interesting one. Like, do you think you made yourself sick in the first place? And do you think you needed to get to that, like you weren't listening, so it had to come to that point?
Yes. Yeah. At the time I would have never said that, because who wants to make themselves sick and like go through what I went through? Like I literally felt like I was dying. I didn't know what was happening to me. So who chooses to go through death on purpose, right?
Right.
You wouldn't choose that. But I think on an unconscious or subconscious level, my higher self, whatever you want to say, knew that what I was doing was not in alignment, and I wasn't going to listen unless something really shook me up. Because there were little things that happened here and there. Like I had launched a group program and I didn't really see the results that I was looking for. And I wasn't feeling like that passion inside my business, but I sort of just kept ignoring it and burying it under the rug, just because you push through and you get results. And when you work hard, things happen. Like that was my mentality. And so I really had to have the rug pulled up from underneath me and, you know, have everything just hit like this crazy low point for me to stop and be like, oh my God, what the hell is happening? Something has to change. There's no other choice now. So yeah, I think that there was a part of me that knew that I wouldn't have paid attention if it wasn't so drastic and dramatic.
Right. Hello, Lexi, wake up.
Yeah, it's so crazy that we push, and like I know so many other people who have such similar stories of, I mean, they only could experience this breakthrough because they had to go through this burnout period first. And so I'm also really passionate now about helping people realize the breakthrough without having to go through that burnout, that breakdown phase, and to catch the symptoms or like notice the symptoms before the true sickness and death, etc., sets in.
Absolutely. I quite often say I'm like, learn from me, because I had a big wake up, or several big wake up moments, and I'm like, it doesn't have to get that bad, right? Like it's like learn from me and don't let yourself get to that point. So yeah, I think I love that you're like, it doesn't have to be like that. And I think people, if they haven't had this, you know, dramatic moment, it's almost like it's not good, like they're good enough. Like sometimes we're looking for that drama, right? Yeah. It's like I want to have a good enough story. I remember my sister, she's like, I don't really have a major like dramatic story to tell, and I'm like, that's good babe. She did have a really bad back injury, funnily enough, and so did I, but apart from that, she was like, you know, it's not that dramatic. And I was like, don't be looking for it if it's not there, right?
Yeah, but I remember when I first started out, people would talk about this burnout thing, and I was like, what? How could anyone ever burn out? Like, because at the time when I started, things were in alignment for me, and I was really excited about what I was doing, and I just couldn't imagine not being excited doing what I was doing. But we all shift, we grow, we evolve, and so our businesses have to with us, and not something I took into account at the time, but yeah, burnout's real. It's not just some myth that people talk about. It sucks.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So can you tell me a little bit more about, so I feel like in the last year and a half, obviously your business is going from strength to strength, it's exploding, this big new project, like I see you shifting and changing, like in yourself, you're more, I don't know, you're so confident. Not that you weren't confident before, but there's been this shift as well. I mean, you've gotten engaged, like you've got a new home you're moving into that's being renovated at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, it all looks like it's all falling into place. Apart from getting more into alignment with your message, do you feel like what else has happened to get you to this space? Like, I feel like there's maybe been more than just one factor.
Yeah, I mean, there's really been so much, but I think that as sucky as the burnout breakdown, that stuff that's been everything for me. And also, just because you see the shiny stuff on the outside doesn't mean that this past year, like, there haven't been moments where I've been questioning what I'm doing, or I've had,
of course.
I mean, and those are the defining moments, right? So this past year I was working with like a mentor even who I like really trusted, and they told me not to lead with the spiritual element and to focus on the business side of things. And that shook me for a while. And so it sucked at the time because I felt really lost and confused and like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing? Am I meant to be doing this? Who am I to be doing this? And then eventually it was like, no, like, I know that this is true for me, and broke out from that space. But again, it goes back to this like cycle and the flow. It's like, just because I'm feeling on top right now, there's also like these day-to-day cycles where a couple days ago I was like super sick, like, oh my God, I have all this stuff to do. I'm overwhelmed. So I also like want to be real about the process too, that it's not all rainbows and butterflies. And just because I feel overall so much more aligned and confident about what I'm doing, it's not always this way. But when you are in flow and when things like are in sync, it feels fucking amazing. So just wanted to like kind of say that. But I think the biggest things for me have been really about, and it's so cliche, so I almost hate saying this, but it's just about ignoring what everyone else is doing in the industry and really focusing on what I'm excited about. Because in the past, I was making other people's goals and dreams my own. Like, I mean, if I saw you going and doing something, or one of our other friends in the past, I would have been like, shit, should I be doing that? Should I be doing a launch like this or structuring my program like that? And I would let it take me so far away from like my true north and what was my inner compass. And so I've recently just said, screw it. If other people are going to do their things, that's awesome. But what's exciting for me, what's lighting me up? Because at the end of the day, if you're not doing what's really piquing your curiosity and your interest, then why are you doing it in the first place?
Oh, yes. Like so much. And it's funny because even I remember even sitting with you guys, and I was so lost. I didn't know what I wanted myself, right? And I remember being like, well, what's on your list? Like, what do you desire? Like, what have you got? And right? And I'm like, I didn't even know. And people were like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like start a magazine. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I should do that. And then I'm like, oh, you're gonna do that? Oh, amazing, right? And sometimes there's a piece of me that needed to be awoken to some of those things being potential for me, which is why we have, you know, sisters who dream big, and you're like, oh, actually that is incredible. And then if I get really honest with myself, I have no interest in starting a magazine. I mean, whether maybe in 10 years, who knows? But right now, zero interest. Like, I adore what you're creating, but at the same time, that would not fit me, my model, who I am. I mean, I love it, but it wouldn't be me. It wouldn't be for me right now.
Totally.
And it's just, and being okay with that. And you know, allowing yourself to be okay. I had a client quite recently tell me, she's like, oh, I'm not allowed to do a group program. We were talking about how she was going to get to her goals and, you know, figure things out and what that looked like. And she said she wasn't allowed to do a group program. And I was like, who the heck told you that? And it was this certain mentor. And I was just like, it would feel good. Like, would you like to, you know? And suddenly, and it was like, we gave her permission, and she was like, oh yeah, right. And she's running, and it's in launch at the moment, and, you know, it's great. So, you know, it's like, yeah, giving ourselves permission to do what we want to do and not listen to the necessarily. Do you think it's a so in the industry, obviously do you think in the industry there's a lot of that going on, like a lot of people pushing their stuff on others?
I don't think it's like intention. I think people come, for the most part, from a place of like love, and they want to help someone truly. But I think that they share what's worked for them, and they think that because it's worked for them or a couple of their clients, like, this is the model, this is the thing to follow. And to me, like, I don't believe there's any one way. I hate cookie cutter things. I think that we all have this unique magic, and the way that we bring it into the world can be and look so different from one person to the other. So I think that there can be like certain steps that are important to take along the way, but I don't think that there's like any molds that you have to fit into, or any like one way to do something. And so I think like a lot of coaches will share like this one way and not be open to the other ways because it didn't work for them, or it hasn't worked for clients in the past. Not out of like, they're just trying to help, I think. Yeah. I don't think anyone's trying to like tear someone down, but it can really mess someone up. It's like messed me up in the past, especially when someone you trust is saying, don't do this. And they've been in the industry for years and they've had a lot of success. You start to question your own truth and like what your inner guidance is telling you. And that's the worst thing that you can do. Absolutely. Because you know what's true for you at the end of the day. No one else can tell you what to do. They can guide you. They can, you know, help lead you to find the answers inside of you. But at the end of the day, you're the one who can feel if it's a fit or not. And you have to trust that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when I've done something that hasn't felt like that, or tried to rush it or do it at the wrong time, or because everybody else is launching one, like it's been horrible, and I haven't seen the results as well. I remember my very first program, I was only doing it because I didn't want to show up and not have one because everybody else did, which is really not ideal. But, you know, now I can see the benefits of having it. And, you know, at the time it didn't, you know, I think I had 6 people in the program, and now a whole ton of people have gone through it and love it and all the rest of it. But at the time, it wasn't really the right time for me. But it's all perfect. And then you can learn from that, right?
Yeah. No, it's so true. I think if we don't experience those moments, and like, you don't know what alignment is until you've been out of alignment and you're like, whoa, that totally doesn't feel good. Oh, ooh, that feels good. This feels amazing. Like, okay. And then it clicks and you know. So sometimes we have to experience those wonky parts of things it's part of the journey, right? So
absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. And you had to go there to experience it so as you can speak about it, right? Like, exactly. Sometimes I think there's been moments where I've experienced things in my business so as I can help people when they're experiencing it. And yes, and I sort of get really grateful for that, because I'm like, I can talk about this because I know how it feels, and yes, I've overcome it, sure, or, you know, continuing to work on it, but I can genuinely say I know how that feels.
No, I think that's a good point. And I think that there was a time that I got kind of cocky inside of my business. And yeah, I was like, I'm kind of the shit. This is so easy. Like, why is everybody else struggling with this? I don't get it. And so I think at one point it was sort of hard for me to relate to my clients because I wasn't understanding while people weren't getting the results that I was so quickly. And then like things came crashing down and I had to like rebuild, and there's been so many humbling moments that have like knocked me off of that like pedestal sort of that I put myself on for a hot second, which thank God it happened, because it really brought me back down, and like it allowed me to relate to my clients and understand that, okay, it's not just like whoop and that's it. There are these bumps along the way, and how we deal with those obstacles, we can then learn and use to help our clients. So those humbling moments have been really helpful in hindsight.
Right. And I often say that no good story ever starts with, it was all perfect and got more perfect, right? Like, have you ever heard a good interview that everyone's like, oh, sure, yeah, it was all amazing, and I'm just so in alignment constantly and nothing bad happens. You're like,
no, that's not natural. Like, if we were to be operating at that speed all the time, like, we'd be like on a drug or something, like constant, and then we'd die, right? So like, we'd actually die. So I think people have to realize, and it's something in the industry that I think more people are starting to talk about now and pulling back the curtain and being real about things, but it's like the highlight reel over and over and over again. And of course, you don't want to be airing your dirty laundry out there or anything like that. I get it. But at the same time, I think it's like, hello, there are cycles, there are ebbs, there are flows. Like you're saying, we're not always in this state of flow. So talking about those other states and helping people realize that this is normal, this is actually part of flow, and it's something you need to experience to be in that, like, I don't know if you have like a term for, well, I guess you would say it's like in flow when you're really feeling it. But yeah, you need those other parts of the cycle in order for it to work. So
so much. And I just want to come back to one thing we talked about, because I don't think, we didn't really go into it, but the way I've sort of discussed flow is like, I feel like you're in a flow phase in your life, right? A flow season. Then it's like, it might go on for years, who knows, maybe multiple years, maybe a decade, I don't know. But like, and then, but within that, it's like within your year, you have cycles and times in your year when you're pushing harder. And then it's like, okay, then within my quarter, I have to have a cycle within my quarter, and then within my week, and then even within your day, right?
Yeah.
How do you like navigate that, I guess?
It's something that I'm still trying to figure out. I like, as soon as I think I have the answer, like something gets thrown in my way and I'm like, oh shit. But I think a big piece of it has really just been learning to like listen to my body and like what's coming up for me in any given moment. Like this past week, I was sick and I had all these plans and all these things to do, and I had to say, screw it. My body needs rest. I need to sleep. Like, I can't push myself, especially like gearing up for a launch. Like, that would be the worst thing I could do for myself long term. So I think that it's just being able to go with the flow and really just feel into, okay, how am I feeling in this moment? What is going to be in service for me right now? Because that's what's going to be in service for you long term. And also, I just find that when you create space for the things that you really like need and desire, everything else falls into place. So like Monday, I literally took like a 3-hour nap and was reading on the couch and just being totally like lazy and whatever. And I had all these to-dos that I ended up getting done in like an hour and a half at the end of the day that normally would have taken me like 4 or 5 hours. But for whatever reason, I was recharged, I was focused, and it just happened. So I think we can expand our container of time, energy, etc. when we really are able to just listen to ourselves. And it's something that I'm practicing. It's not perfect by any means, but the more and more I do it, the more I trust that I know what's meant for me in that moment.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. Can you tell us a bit more about Biz Woo and what does that mean, and how does that all come together for you?
Yeah. So like I said, when I first started out, I was so far in the biz, the masculine world. And I was like, strategy, like get my head down, implement these structures. And that's all well and good. You need that. But then again, like that was where the burnout happened. And so then I went so far into the woo where I didn't do anything in my business for like 3 months. And I was just playing with astrology and spirituality and meditation and all these things. And it was great, but I also realized like I needed some structure and some systems if I wanted this business to work. And so for me, it's really not about like going back and forth between the two, or completely into one and completely into the other, but finding like this dance where you can really just sort of play between both realms and weave them together to create magic. At least that's like sort of my version of flow, I guess you would say.
I love it. I love the language you use. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I love doing too is working with clients who, a lot of people, they're either so far in woo world, like they're this incredible spiritual practitioner who have this like amazing craft that they're so great at, but they have no freaking idea what systems to create or structures to put into their business to actually make their dreams a reality.
Yeah.
Or there's this person who's like so far into the business world and they've taken all the programs and the courses, but something's not in alignment, something's off, and they're missing that. They're just missing like that special magic that they have. It's untapped right now, or they've forgotten about it. So I love just looking at, okay, like you have 3 parts business, and now like let's weave these 3 parts woo together and make them play, so you can just be totally on fire inside of your life and your business. So yeah, so for me, it's the strategy and the spirituality, weaving it together. That's where the magic happens, and that's where the fun happens too. And if you're not having fun, then boring. I don't know.
Absolutely. We're so on the same page with that. I would describe what I do almost the same. And it's not been like that the whole time, but that's how it's emerging. And they're like, and I think I'm working with a bunch of people who are really business, and then they're like, I don't know why I'm working with you, but but all this spiritual stuff is kind of making more sense. And I'm like, right? Like, and I'm cracking them open. I had this beautiful moment with somebody the other day, and she's so structured, so like focused. And she's like, so I was just, after I did my meditation, and then I did the, like, just thinking, and her language has changed so much. And she's like, so I'm beginning to see in the moment, but, you know, what's maybe better for me, or the plan. And she was always so obsessed with the plan, and then having it work out exactly as she thought. And then if it didn't, and it's that control thing. And I get that. I love how it's like a change, and she's opening her awareness up to allow the change to come in. How do you let go of that? Because obviously you're super focused on strategy, but like, how do you deal with things when they're not maybe turning out exactly as you imagined, or is it even better? Like, what is that?
Yeah, this has been like a real struggle for me. I am such a control freak. I'm so used to just doing a certain amount of work and getting a certain outcome. Like that's been my past. And so that's what's comfortable for me. And so this trusting and surrendering, so uncomfortable. And it's interesting because I think I shared this with you before, but like even inside of my relationship, like it's something that shows up all over the place, where I try and take control, or I try and like really show up in my masculine, but like that doesn't work. And so it's been this big lesson in all areas of my life of really being able to step more into my feminine side, my spiritual side, and surrender and trust. And so this is like the hardest thing ever for me in the world. So I'm not even going to pretend that I'm mastering it. But like I said, it's that everyday practice where a little shift here over time has like been going a long way. So whether that's like with my fiance saying, honey, like you choose the restaurant, you tell me what we're going to do, and like I'll show up and I'll be there. So, okay, like great, let him take control, and I just trust that it's all going to work out, even if it's not my favorite place, or I'm like tired or whatever. I just go with it. And the same thing inside of my business. There's like only so much that you can control. And so I really focus on the things that I feel like I do have control over, which is like how I show up inside of like a coaching call with my clients. Like, what can I do to perform my best? Well, I can sleep well the night before. I can, eat the right foods. I can do my like spiritual practice in the morning, get grounded. So it's like things that I can control, I'll try and control. But outside of that, I've just really relaxed and let things happen more organically. Yeah. And that's when exciting things happen too. Like I've been so surprised by the way like Biz Woo School has unfolded, and yeah, I'm kind of rambling, but
I love it. I love it all.
Yeah. Learning to expect the unexpected and just surrender to it.
Right. It's such a massive lesson for me as well. I just love talking about this stuff. What has been, what is some of your spiritual practice? Because like what do you, I know like one size doesn't fit all in this either, and everybody has their different thing that fits them, but what are your some of your like non-negotiables, and what's maybe in the morning, and then what's created the biggest shift for you? Like what are some of your favorite go-to things?
It's a good question. So I'm someone who I hate so when I was doing a morning routine, I was like, okay, 10 minutes for reading, 10 minutes for journaling. And that drove me crazy. And I started to resent it and feel like it was just another to do. So it's one of those things where I'm practicing surrendering and trusting by waking up in the morning and being like, okay, what do I feel like doing? Like, what is going to be most fun and in service to me? So sometimes that looks like 3 hours of reading, pulling tarot cards, meditating, or other days, like it's 5 minutes of meditation and like a couple minutes of journaling, and then I'm going. So I have like a bunch of things that I can choose from because that feels expansive and fun for me. And then I kind of like choose based off of the day, to be completely honest. So it never looks the same. There's consistency, but it's never the same structure, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think it's important, and because I think because again, I had somebody was like, she'd gone from nothing and then was like, I've only done my spiritual practice 5 days this week. And I'm so like annoyed with myself. I was like, how many times did you do it last week? And she was like, none. It's like, it's a win, right?
Yeah. And I tend to be that all or nothing person where it's like, oh my God, I didn't do it for an hour. I only did it for 5 minutes. Well, I failed. And that's how I used to be. And now like, I'm so much more like, okay, I did it for 5 minutes. It's better than nothing. And tomorrow, like, we'll see how I feel. And if I do it for 5 minutes again, great. At least there's consistency. And that's what really matters, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. It's just so important. So important. Have you ever found it,
oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, have you ever find it difficult to get into that consistency?
Yeah, I think it's with anything. The first like few days of getting into it are really hard. So like if this past week, like, well, this is probably a bad example. I was sick this past week, but I was also taking more time to just like do the more spiritual feminine work. So that was good. But if I slump for whatever reason, it's so hard getting back into it. So working out, for example, that's something that when I'm in it, I do it like almost every day, no, like without fail, but I haven't been recently. And so getting back into that is so hard. So in those situations, I think like what's important is really focusing on like how I want to feel and how those activities are going to help me feel that way, because the act of like going to the gym like totally sucks, or the act of like sitting down to meditate, sometimes I'm like so resistant, but I think about how I feel afterwards and what it allows to shift inside of my life or my business, and focus on that to really help motivate me. And accountability. Like there's nothing like an accountability partner or someone to do it with you. Make sure it happens.
Yeah, I love it. Have you got Jake meditating yet?
Yes, actually. He was, oh my God, I have to like pull up this picture.
Oh my God. This guy deserves a medal. He's like he's just there, and he just holds space, and you just do your crazy stuff and bless him.
Exactly.
Wrong. Oh my God.
I call him my rock, and I'm like the sea anemone just going crazy.
Totally. He's such a rock star.
But I was meditating the other day, and Kato had his eyes closed. That's my dog. And he was meditating too.
Oh my God. I love it. So the dog's even fucking meditating. That's epic.
But Jake was joining us. We were listening to our Tony Robbins music, because like that's like the masculine way to do it. And
yeah,
it was funny.
I love it. And I love how I feel like Tony almost gives men permission to go there with this. And because he's such a masculine man and like such a powerful dude, and it's like, oh, he's kind of cool, and he rides like, he drives fast cars and boats, and he's married, but he's like women and like and he meditates, and it's like, yes, I am powerful, but I meditate. And
no, it's so true. That was like his gateway into this world pretty much, and now we're traveling and doing the rest of his master or whatever it is
Yeah,
program.
Master University.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I mean, I love it. And I just, yeah. Tony was one of my entry points as well into this world. And he's not crazy spirit. He comes very from the personal development side of things. And but you got to start where not that it's, I mean, that could be all you need, but yeah, I feel like it opened up a little doorway into, exactly. Yeah, and he is just some amazing stuff. But I could bang on about how much I love Tony, but that's not what it's 12 o'clock for me, and I'm talking about Tony. I love it. Amazing. Who are some of your other favorite teachers, or some of the biggest lessons you've learned over this time?
That's a good question. So I'm like actually not terrible, but I don't really follow that many people, and I don't know, like there's no one who's like my ultimate guru per se. There are people, I think there's like seasons for people who I follow, interestingly enough. So like during certain phases, like I'm really interested in certain people. So I mean, I guess like last year for me, like, so Deborah Silverman, she was my astrology mentor. She's so amazing, but I totally immersed myself in her teachings, and she's just freaking hysterical and just so fabulous. So during that like phase or season of my life, I was super immersed in that. Then I did have like a Tony Robbins phase, like when I was like going to those things, I was like listening to his audiobooks and like all the things. So I sort of like pick a person and like get immersed in their world, and I'm like, okay, like feel on to the next. Right now, like Mama Gina is someone who I'm loving.
Yeah.
Actually, look, Pussy is right here in front of me.
Good job.
But it's so good. And so I think like, I don't know, just wherever my interest sort of takes me, I just let it guide me, and I try and flitter in that area, and just kind of collect it and create my own knowledge base, I guess you would say.
I love that. And I think that's why, you know, there's a few different things that happen in the industry. Like there's that like sense that people, you know, some people can be like carbon copies, or like that kind of like phrase, if we get too obsessed with one person. And I think the beautiful thing with both of us is that we have gone out to all these different sources, and it comes into this like melting pot of who we are and what we believe, and then from that, then we add our own twist on it and create it from there. And I remember I was listening to Brendan Burchard, who's somebody I got into and had a phase. I was in a Brendan phase for a while. I still love, I'm like listening to all his books and everything. And people were like, oh, he's such a leader in the industry. And he like is very quick to be like, I'm a product of this industry. He's like, I would not have existed without it. And he's like, these are my teachers. These are the people I've learned from. And then I go and do all of this research and I put it together. And I love that he does that and says that, because I would hate to ever be like, hey, I just know all this stuff.
That's born way.
I know, like Gaga-esque. But it's funny though, I remember my assistant, God, this is ages ago, like a year maybe ago, and we are doing a sales page, and she's like, I need a quote. Like, just give me a quote. And I'm like, I'm going to quote you. And I was like, okay. And I came up with something, and she's like, was that you? Where did you get that from? And I was like, I don't know. I said, I'm pretty sure I didn't come up with it myself. Maybe I did. I was like, I have no idea who you would like
source for that.
Acknowledge that from. Like, I don't know. Like, but I think I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But I'm.
No, I get what you're trying to say, and I think that it is so important to just. I think like you're right to a certain extent. Like we have all these influences, and we take what we find interesting, and we do create that melting pot. And it's really about being able, at the end of the day, though, to find like your unique point and what your individual stance is on something, because it is so easy to have these teachers and look up to them, and again, like put them on that pedestal and be like, oh my God, they like, this is the everything. Like I need to teach this myself. And sooner or later, like you are just like a mini me. And while that can be useful to a certain extent, like when there's so many mini me's out there doing the same thing, it's like really boring. And so we need more, just, I don't know, I think that everybody's, the more that we express ourselves individually, the more that other people are going to be able to take from it. And the more that they're going to feel like they can go ahead and do the same. So it's important. Absolutely.
I love that. I love it. And I think it just, as we grow, it just changes and expands. And I love that. And yeah, because I guess some of my like flow teach, I don't even know where some of it's come from. Like there's just been so many like pieces, but at the end I have to just stop and be like, this is what I know is true and believe, and you know where it's all come from. So
and I also think that looking outside of the industry too is something that is really helpful, because I think we can get in such a bubble or like a box even, and when you go outside of the box and explore these other things, that's like when you can weave like all these, I don't know, I think it just makes it so much more juicy and rich. So I always like tell my clients, like, I love like diving into like Harry Potter or like these like fiction fantasy books, because it gives me these like crazy ideas that I then like, well, I'm like creating like the Hogwarts for coaches. So yeah, it's just fun to like take other elements outside of the industry and weave them in your own unique way too. So
I love that. It's like cross-pollinating.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You see something amazing like somebody's doing in the fitness industry, and then you can talk about it in yours and or whatever. And I think it's I really love that. I've noticed how often do you hear people saying, or do you feel like people can't get out there and do what they really want to do because they feel like it's been done before, or they feel like everyone else is already doing it? How do you like navigate that?
Oh, this is so tough, because this is something that I dealt with from the beginning too. And I think that you start off in this industry and first it's like, oh my God, all the possibilities, this is so exciting. And then when you're in this like small section, you're like, wait, she's doing that too. And she's doing that too. Like shit. And I think it can be a little bit awkward at first to find your footing. I know that I was trying to emulate all these people that I saw who were successful in the industry, because I thought that you had to do that in order to be successful. So it can be really difficult, I think, to sort of let your true personality and identity shine. I think it's something that, I mean, you deal with people all the time with visibility blocks and stuff like that. Like, it is not comfortable to put yourself out there in an authentic way. And so, I mean, the best advice I can give is like, be your true self and like, just do what excites you, but it's not so easy. And I think that it was only from trial and error and putting myself out there and like trying to be like these other people and seeing that that didn't work, that I slowly became more and more comfortable just being my weird, quirky self, and seeing that, okay, like, some people like hate it and think I'm going to cast a spell on them and think I'm weird. Like, that's fine. You're not my people. And other people like love it. So it's sort of one of those things that I think that either you're just so confident and you're like, I'm going to be me and I don't care, or you just have to slowly but surely like carve your own path and figure it out along the way.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah. All of this. I'm just like, yes. And I need to get that book as well. Mama Gina, yes.
Yeah.
I need to get on that. I tried to find it on audio and she didn't have the Audible book yet, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna check again, because I'm a little bit nomadic, and so my book collection, and I went and ordered I have amazing like best-selling authors on this series, and I had to go and buy a bunch of their books because they weren't on Audible, so I have this hunk of books, and I'm trying to work my way through them.
Funny, like whenever I meet up with Jo, she has like all these suitcases that are literally filled with notebooks and books, and I'm like, what are you doing?
I know, I just love them, and I keep ordering them, and I'm like, you don't have a house, what are you doing ordering more books?
I think it's
madness. But yeah, it's just something about having them. It's so funny. Like, And actually, do you know what it is? My laptop is balanced on like 6 of them right now. So
they're your best.
That's what I need all these books for. I've got Conversations with God, Sacred Contracts, Moonology, and Rise, Sister, Rise.
That's amazing. That's a great collection.
It's good shit. That's good shit.
Yeah.
and a great laptop balancer. Anyway, it's 12:22 now. So it seems like an awesome time to. Can you share a little bit about where people can find you? Where do you hang out online? And then tell us a little bit about your wonderful free gift.
Okay, cool. So you can find me at bizwooschool.com, and that's BIZWOO school.com. And my free gift is all about identifying and uncovering what your primary magic type is, because we all have a certain magic type that we rely on, or that's like comfortable for us, and that we have show up in the world. I don't want to give too much of it away because it's sort of like there's a quiz that you have to take and I don't want to give away the answers here, but basically it's really acknowledging which one's the primary one that you're most comfortable with, but then also how to weave in some of the other ones so you can create magic and skyrocketing success inside of your business.
I love it. That sounds awesome. So I'm going to check that out as well. So definitely take the quiz. I love a good quiz. Right? It's like so satisfying. People, we're just so nosy about ourselves. If it's going to tell me something more about myself, I'm like, oh, I'm in.
Exactly. You're like, what's my type? I need to know now.
Right? So it's a little bit like astrology, because I'm like, oh, you can like tell me more about me. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's like no one believes in it. It's so funny. Like even my dad, he's like so anti like that stuff. And he was like, I said to him like, oh, you're such a Taurus or something. He was like, what does that mean? I was like, you don't believe in it. And he was like, well, what does it mean? And I was like, well, it means da 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 da. And he was just like, oh, interesting. And so like, what would it mean if like you're like, what are you? I'm like, well, my sun sign Sagittarius. Like, what does that mean? And so it's like, we're all so curious, even if we don't believe it, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
So,
what's your moon?
My moon is Aries. So I'm fiery.
Ooh, interesting. I love it.
What's yours?
My sun is Scorpio and my moon is Leo.
Oh.
I've got this mad, like, they're totally opposite. So my Leo, I've just learned quite recently, is like, wants to be out there in the spotlight, doing all that amazing stuff. And that's in my business house, thank goodness. And then the Scorpio side of me is like secretive and quiet and likes to be on their own. And so I have these like polar opposites in my chart, and the irony in my business being called Mission for Balance is
back there.
okay, that could have been weird. First time ever, we'd be like, oh, I have to rate it PG or something. But yeah, so I was like, oh, and the guy was like, that is the funniest name you could have called your business, because he's like, that's going to be the mission of your life. And I was like, oh, interesting. But when you have something like that confirmed, or you can suddenly understand why you're like, I'm an all or nothing person too. And I'm like, oh, makes so much more sense now.
Exactly. And it's a permission slip to just be yourself and unapologetically you. And so when I was like doing a lot of astrology readings for people, it was just like such this feeling of relief, like, oh, I'm supposed to be this way. Like, and of course there's like the light side and the shadow side to every sign and every like combination. But at the end of the day, it's just like, oh, that's why my mom's like that, or like, that's why this. Okay. And so there's almost like this compassion and appreciation that happens when you're knowledgeable about these things, which is amazing.
I love that. So good. But I'm going to wrap up. Thank you so much for being here, being your gorgeous, shiny self. And yeah, I've just loved this and everything. You know, I know they're going to take away just that little, even one nugget or moment or thing, or just a little bit of permission to be themselves. So I really hope like that's what they're getting, because that's what I feel like that's what this is all about, being your true self, and nothing else matters.
So be your unicorn self.
I know. I did give you a unicorn horn, right?
No, I still have it, of course.
Good. I'm glad. I'm going to check on that.
Yeah. Don't worry.
Okay. Thanks, love.
Love you.
Bye.